Hello YouTube, welcome back. So in this video I want to talk for a quick moment about Mowry speaking and telling her story about being denied the magazine cover of a very popular teen magazine back when Sister Sister was airing on TV in the 90s. And of course, this is Tia telling the story. It's not Tamera. Um, and I guess I can speak a little bit about that. I think people do have criticisms about Tamera Mowry. Tamera Mowry is, she used to be on the show The Real before she left. And she has a mole as well, just in case you're trying to differentiate the two. And Tia was on the game and she left it. But nevertheless, so when it comes to the black community, people kind of have criticisms of Tamera Mowry, or Tamera Mowry Housley. I guess Tamera. Folks got issues with her because, one, she's a swirler, I guess technically. I know people can argue that, well, she's half white, so is that really a swirler? Right. She's a swirler, and she's not really on the pro-black tip, quote unquote. She's more so on the, racism is, a problem that affects everybody, you know. Very much on the, multicultural, we are the world type thing, which is fine. If she's a swirler, then she probably should be on some multicultural, you know, ish stuff, right? It would be kind of weird being a swirler, being half black, half white herself, being with a white man and talking about power to the black people, black power. That would be a little weird, right? Like, really, you know. And Tia, on the other hand, the black community doesn't have much issues with Tia because she married black, and procreated black. And she's doing this as a mixed biracial woman who's identifying as black. I think both of them identify as being black women. The key word is identify and consider themselves, of course, because I know someone's gonna come through. They mix, they ain't black, they mix. And I'm like, yes, 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 that is true. But of course, they identify as black. And why is that? Why do you think that they identify and consider themselves to be black or black women? Why do you think that is? I think one reason is, well, their mom's black. So, and their mom may have taught them to identify as black. Also, their treatment in society may kind of, be, I guess, reminiscent of a black woman's treatment in society to an extent, whether good or bad. And as well, of course, we know about the one-drop rule, a rule that black people, I think, of course, black people didn't implement it. However, black people helped perpetuate it and hold on to it to an extent. I think now folks are starting slowly to kind of let go and I guess to be more vigilant and to vet people who are biracial, part black, part white, of course, or very least just part black, part other, right? But to talk about the magazine cover, though, Tia said that they were denied a magazine. Tia and Tamera were denied a magazine cover of a very popular teen magazine back in the 90s when Sister Sister was on, and she said that they were beating Friends in the ratings. And I'm like, I guess Friends must have just been starting, maybe. I'm not trying to be shady towards, Sister Sister, the show, and Tia and Tamera and whatnot. But, Friends is iconic. Friends is still very much being played in syndication all around. You know, you know, Friends is considered one of the top shows in the history of television. One of the most beloved shows and popular shows in the history of television. And, Sister Sister is nice. But I just don't think it was at that ever reached that level. That's the thing, which is fine. It doesn't mean that it's not a good show. It just didn't reach that level. But yeah, Tia was talking about them not getting the magazine cover because they was black women, right? Because they was black. And I think here, um, this is a situation I kind of want to just discuss a little bit where it comes to biracial people. I'll center it around biracial women and their treatment in society and sort of like quote unquote receiving the black girl or black woman treatment, and that kind of playing a part in how they identify and what they consider themselves to be. Because, keep in mind, people's experiences do play a part in how they identify and what they consider themselves. Because, if Tia and Tamera were looking the same as they look and were being treated as white women, good, bad, or indifferent, then that would play a factor in how they identify with themselves or identify themselves, right? If they were being treated as 100% white women, they may be more inclined to identify as white, right? But since they're being more so treated as 100% black women are close enough, they're identifying as black. And this comes up in discussions where it's like someone's questioning a biracial person's blackness and they're saying like, oh, well, I experience racism. You know, oh, well, I experience discrimination. You know, when they see me, they just see another N word, etc. Right? And I feel like the treatment may be adjacent to a black person's treatment, perhaps. I think probably more so we can maybe, this is where the term perhaps person of color can come into play and perhaps be more accurately used versus using person of color or woman of color to, you know, erase and hide black people, you know. But yeah, I feel like their experience is perhaps that of a person of color versus a black person, perhaps, because there's some, say, indigenous folks who could say they're not they have treatment that is perhaps on par with black people's treatment in society, or other brown melanated groups of people. And also, something else to have in mind, Tia and Tamera, as well as other biracial people and women especially, being treated, yeah, they may at times get quote unquote the black treatment. I'll say the person of color treatment, which they would be. But there are times where they don't get that treatment either, the black treatment or person of color treatment, and they're put above black folks, right, and treated as kind of like not black, or at least not too black, you know. So that's something that needs to be talked about too, because it's like when the biracial people come through talking about they're treated just like another N. Well, okay, well, there's times when you're not treated as just another N and you're placed above black people, especially if you are a biracial woman. So, you know, I think we have to be a bit more honest about, well, the people who are speaking and just the black community in general just needs to be a bit more honest about biracial people's experiences and treatment within society. And I know that, again, the one drop rule has, created and fostered this type of legacy, basically. So it's not entirely black people's fault, but black people bear the burden. So black people have to find a way to manage this and create a standard for blackness, you know. And also, talking about standards for blackness, I feel like if Tamera was making this complaint, I feel like a lot of people would dismiss it because simply she's in an interracial relationship with a white man. But with Tia, they're not as quick to dismiss it because she's with a black man, right? So it's interesting because on one hand, when you on one hand, it's like, oh, well, their partner shouldn't matter. When black men are complaining about racism and being with non-black women as partners, it's like, oh, well, that shouldn't matter. Oh, you're just being jealous, you're just being bitter, etc. Right? But when it comes to this, it's like, okay, there has to be some standards here. We're just not going to take, a complaint from a biracial woman with a white man about racism. Oh, you shouldn't have got with the white man if, racism is so bad, right? Which is definitely an argument, but I think the argument can be extended to black men as well. But again, that's another story. And also, for these people who love to say, like, oh, you are the seed of your father. Well, Tia and Tamera's father is white, so, like, are Tia and Tamera white now? Like, like, so really, like, Tamera, she wouldn't be in an interracial relationship because she white. And Tia, she would be because she white and her husband black, right? You see how crazy that is, right? But that's usually a thing that is thrown out there to claim more people as black, especially when it comes to having access to them, you know, dating, marriage, sexually, what have you, right? And having access without having barriers to the access and having people shame, guilt, say that they're not down, quote unquote, and a sellout for, their preferences or whatever, you know, how that goes. But yeah, so Tia complaining about not being on the magazine and having a mug all over. She didn't mention the name of the magazine though. That's something else too. She didn't mention the name of the magazine. Um, and I guess probably because she ain't want no smoke from the magazine. Want no smoke from probably the white people who support the magazine. You know. Yeah. But a lot of people were like, name names. And if not, just keep quiet about it. You know. But if it was Tamera, they definitely would be pushing that. um, let's see, what else? Yeah. I'll say when I saw Tia and Tamera on Sister Sister, like way back when, I did think that they were just, black girls. I didn't know that they were, biracial, mixed, what have you. Um, and they actually did an episode that I saw where they ended up finding their biological father on the TV show. And they portrayed him as being white. And them themselves were like, oh, they were shocked to find out that they had a white father. Like their father was white. Um, but of course, we know in real life their father actually is white. Um, but nevertheless, I found that to be a bit interesting that they actually, put that into the show. And they put into the show, of course, that their mom was black. They didn't show their mother. I don't know if she was deceased or they just couldn't find her. She may have been deceased, though. Um, But yeah, so pretty much I think T and Tamera, they career purposes definitely, as well as their personal lives, they go as black women. I think in the industry is going to treat them as being black women. Um, and in the personal life, in society, their treatment is black women as well. So I think that's a big part of them identifying the way that they identify. Yeah. Thankfully, I don't think I've heard of Tia and Tamera being problematic, at least towards black women specifically, which is good, especially considering that their mom is a black woman. So, good and kudos for that. Um, some people can argue that Tamara is problematic because of her, stances and views and things like that. But that's another video. Um, and I think Tia and Tamara are smart enough to know where they get their bread and butter from, and that's primarily black women supporting them. So I think they're smart enough to know, not to go around trying to pick fights with black women. And I don't really think they have a reason to. Um, but nevertheless, I guess I just went on a bit of a rant there. But let me know what you think about all this. Let me know in the comments section. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now.